Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of the review preview show. One day we'll come up with a better name for it. I'm once again joined by Jared, and Brett has returned this week.
Yep, I'm back.
He's back. He had to take a week off after the Browns-Jags game.
That's right.
You know, typical Steelers fan. Anyway, from last week, we've got the matchups of me versus Rob. Unfortunately, he got dumped. Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor, my boys. What a game. Then we've got Hunter again, absolutely going off without Tyreek Hill this week. It was a lot more of the guys you didn't expect. Chuba Hubbard had a huge game. Deontay Johnson had a huge game. And we'll get into why they had a big game a little bit later on. But big game from Hunter again. We've got Jared kind of narrowly beating Ross. This came down to Jamar Chase on Monday Night Football having an absolute monster game for Jared. It looked like Ross was going to pull it off, but he did not. We've got Corey and Josh. Josh looks like a pretty consistent threat in this league through 3 weeks. We'll see how that continues. And Corey, better luck next year. JGF and Adam, this was an interesting matchup because we had kind of predicted Adam to win this last week, Jared and Brett did. I did not. But Adam got like nothing from Richardson. This was all Barkley. Barkley scored like a third of Adam's points this week, which is absolutely insane that one player can do that. But, Adam gets the win. He's on the board. Last but not least for this week, we've got Devin and Clint. I think Devin's team finally kind of flexed their muscles a little bit. Dallas Goedert apparently played football this week, and boy, oh boy, did he. The Eagles were running out of options, and they were like, oh yeah, we have this tight end that's really fast and good at football. So let's get him the ball early and often, and, Devin's team got the reward for that this week, especially with Jalen Hurts on the roster also. So with that quick fire review out of the way, we're going to pass it over. Since he loves to predict injuries, we're going to have him talk about injuries. Jared, what do we got this week?
Yeah, another pretty brutal week of injuries, I would say. I know it's been, pretty brutal year in general with like high-class injuries but high noteworthy players getting injured. This week we lost the likes of Trey McBride, Devontae Smith, and Austin Eckler all to concussions. We lost Justin Herbert to a high ankle sprain, which is the plight of a lot of different.
I think I just want to touch on the severity of loss to concussion because we lost to a concussion, but we didn't. Like, those guys have concussions. I don't think we've lost them yet.
True.
Yeah, R.I.P. Tua.
Tua might not. Tua might be the first one we've ever lost to a concussion. But the rest of them, they'll probably play football again. Except Devontae Smith, he got his craft rocked.
And spit on.
And then, he got hit late after the fact.
They spit on him?
Yeah, the Saints player, he's already on the ground motionless, and the Saints player,
And then he speared him, and then spit on him.
Yeah, he dove onto his chest, and then he spit on him as he was walking away.
Did they suspend him yet?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Crazy. And then Justin Herbert, of course, played the Steelers, got injured. Kind of hype, actually. But,
yeah, because the Steelers... Wait, what?
I mean, it was. When he went out of the game, it was like, oh, this game's over.
He's that kind of hype for talking about injury.
Yeah.
This is why Jared's in charge of injury talk.
Tank Dell, hand should be fine, D'Amico Ryans. Well, I like to quote from D'Amico Ryans there. Then Amari Cooper. I don't even, how did Amari Cooper get injured? Did he catch too many touchdowns and he just decided he couldn't play football anymore?
Yeah, the Browns were like, wait, we're scoring touchdowns. Stop that. No, he went down really hard, late in the game. I think it was the last snap of the game for the Browns offense. Maybe it was a third down before a fourth. But he went up for a ball that Watson overthrew, and he came down, hard on his back and, limped off the field on his own, but, with trainers.
Yeah.
And, obviously,
I think it was past his bedtime.
Yeah.
Didn't come back in the game, but...
And then, of course, Adam Thielen had the hamstring injury and went to IR.
He caught a touchdown on that. He caught a touchdown on that hamstring
Yeah.
injury.
Hey, the crazy part to me with that is like not that he's like that's a huge fantasy loss, but what that team might have just turned into, like he might have just missed out
Yeah.
on all the good parts of that team. So
And
that's
momentarily we may get into. There may be a little reasoning why something happened here in a minute.
yeah. Sam Laporta, another low ankle sprain. Those low ankle sprains, I feel like will like. I think that's officially.
The low ankle
Russell
sprains are the
Wilson's issue.
less. I thought he had a calf.
Oh, you're right. It is a calf.
The low ankle sprains are usually less severe than high ankle sprains, for these NFL guys. But Sam Laporta's got a bigger problem than that, and it's just not being good at football this year because Jameson Williams has taken over that number 2 role.
Yeah, and then CMC obviously is on IR. Apparently is in Germany this week getting further treatment. I heard that was supposed to be stem cell stuff.
Yeah, so there's obviously
yeah.
different countries have different laws and different like medical doctors are better at certain things, but I don't really think that going to another country to get better treatment is a good thing. Like it's good that he's doing it, but it's not a good news for his injury because that probably means that it's more advanced and more complicated than what they thought.
Yeah.
But I heard that Kobe did that, and he went to that German doctor way back when he was dealing with it. So, I mean, Kobe turned it around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Someone had told me that they thought that meant he was going to be out for longer because he was going to Germany for it.
It could be.
Well, yeah, because they have they got to take red blood cells out, and then they kind of, like, put them in beakers or shit. And then once they like cure them up, they send them back
what do they
in.
Put them in?
Yeah,
like beakers.
It's a little weird that they're putting them in.
Of course, there's always other injuries, but those are some of the notable ones. Non-fantasy related, I think the Bengals just lost their right guard or left guard.
Did not know that.
Who did they lose to IR? I just saw that today. The Bengals lost one of their linemen now.
Yeah, well, we don't care about the fat guys. We just care about the position players and the skill groups because.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't really play in.
We had 2 fat guy touchdowns this year.
This week.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
fat guys do matter.
We have one this week. Jenny Daniels had one for his first career touchdown to an offensive lineman.
They need to let us roster them in our flex
as
spots.
tight ends.
Yeah.
There you go. What an idea. Speaking of ideas, let's talk about some ideas that have come to pass. Brett, what do we got?
We're gonna talk about some trades, and luckily I am one of the ones who did a trade.
Luckily.
There's been some, I guess, different views about this trade. So to background it real quick is I had 1 million picks from last year, and a ton of young guys that are performing. So I just have like an excess of people.
Excess of people.
As far as like young talent,
yeah.
But the idea is if I can trade for some of these people,
scoring points.
Now I can maybe score points this year and lead me into next year, and then possibly go for it next year. Yeah, I would say I definitely overpaid, but I think I put in the chat somewhere about the league. You have to overpay
sometimes.
To most of the people in this league for anything to go through. So at that point, I just kind of gave up on trying.
You're right, Jared. Do you have any thoughts on this trade? I know I have a couple things.
Yeah, I would say it might be an overpay with moving young players like that. I mean, we're talking about Ladd McConkey, who's in a system that he may be like, I don't know, he may be great, or he may be getting 3 receptions a week for 42 yards.
And Quentin Johnston is breaking out in the offense.
JJ looked really good through preseason. Or what we did see of him, but so did Bo Nix, and now maybe Bo Nix is back on track, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you have... I mean, you might have overpaid. Maybe 3 years from now, that'll look really stupid. That's the number 2 wide receiver in the league. And
it also just depends how close to competing you really get.
Yeah.
But, like... I actually don't mind this trade on either side. When I first saw it, I was like, that's an interesting trade. You can clearly see what each team's trying to do. The only thing I thought when I saw this trade was Trevor Lawrence still counts for something. Like, I've been out for Trevor Lawrence, on Trevor Lawrence for a long time. But these last couple weeks, I feel like it's been a lot more people are getting off the Trevor Lawrence ship. And, you know, now there's stuff coming out from, like, stuff from before he got drafted in the first place is resurfacing again, like old quotes in the draft process where he pretty much said, like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. Like, I don't think I need a chip on my shoulder. And it's just, like, you kind of question those guys having the motivation to really, like, want to win when they say stuff like that. Obviously, that was before he got drafted, so, and stuff changes. And, like, everyone wants to win, but you have to actually, like, have that mindset of you want to win every game in the NFL, or else you're just not going to produce. And he's not producing, so.
Yeah, I'm a big T-Law guy. I always have been. Obviously, the stats this year are not showing, and even into last year. But like I said, I'm big on him. I'm big on some weird quarterbacks like Levis, Baker, Trevor. Those are like the big three for me. So when I got a chance to grab him, I just decided to grab him. And he can't do any worse than Deshaun Watson. So
that was unnecessary. But that's not the
That
only.
was very
That was
necessary.
not the only trade we saw go down this week, Brett. Was it?
correct. Yeah. So the second trade that went down was, right after. It was right after the game, right?
No, this was Monday
Yes,
morning.
It was after the Bengals.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
It was
No, this
Tuesday
was
morning.
after.
Yesterday morning.
It was that night.
No,
yeah, it was
that
like
what happened?
directly after.
no, it was Tuesday morning. It was Tuesday morning.
It was probably sent that night.
It was
but,
Tuesday morning because I was driving to the gym.
Okay. Either way, it's between Jared and Dale, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So Dale went and got Terry McLaurin and traded Xavier Leggett to Jared.
Yep.
This is obviously what makes it okay is whether Dalton continues to be quarterback or not. I think if they bring back Bryce Young like they supposedly keep saying they're supposed to, I feel like Leggett is worthless. But that's just my opinion. And that's purely based on Bryce Young as being a little kid trying to throw a football. But Terry McLaurin had a great game.
Yes, he did. Quite the game. It's actually his first relevant fantasy game in like all season for sure, and
Probably last
it's only
year,
like
too.
his only like third relevant fantasy
Last
game
year's not a
all
good
of
year for
last
Terry.
year. So I've rostered him for the last 2 years. I think maybe I just got him last year.
You just bored of him.
And a little bored of him.
Yeah.
He's 29. So Leggett seemed like a young wide receiver who I liken to George Pickens, which just an overall like
So
size.
do you also liken Kenny Pickett to Bryce Young?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for our Justin Fields, and he might be on the roster. He might have started last week.
No, that's your Russell Wilson. That's your Russell Wilson right there.
Russell Wilson never started though.
That's true. That's your Mason Rudolph.
It might be. He is actually Mason Rudolph.
Mason.
Red hair.
Yeah. Wait, Mason has black hair. What? I'm so confused.
No.
Oh.
So Andy Dalton, yes.
Right, what does that have to do with Mason Rudolph? I don't get it. Anyway, I think I didn't actually see the Adam Thielen going on IR news until after this trade went through. Which, whenever I saw that, it kind of felt like a gut punch. I was like, ah, crap. I should have probably looked into that before I made this trade. But, I'm still okay with it. I do like Leggett. This is one of the few leagues I have him in. But I'm also just trying to assemble an Ohio State roster, and Terry McLaurin gets me one step closer to doing that, and I'm very close to a full Ohio State roster that I can start every week, which is so much fun, and somebody is going to get beat by the entire Ohio State roster this season, but Jared, we'll get into that. It's not ready to
do it
roll
now.
yet, but, it's definitely in the cards. And honestly, the rest of the regular season, if I lose a game, it might just be Ohio State the rest of the regular season. But we'll see. Anyway, with that being said, we're going to move right in to previewing this week's matchups. At the top, we're going to kick it off with a big one. We've got a battle of the co-hosts, a 50-50 prediction. Last year, championship rematch, where Jared went undefeated last season. I had 3 total losses. One was to Jared in the regular season, and one was to Jared in the championship game. This year, Jared already has a loss. I'm coming in 3-0, so like I said, got to keep going for that undefeated season, try and match what Jared just did. No, I have predicted that I will win this. It's going to be super close, and I don't think I don't want to get into the specific players, but I'm definitely looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah, I think all I need in general to beat you is my quarterbacks to score. If my quarterbacks do well, I'll win. I'm not sure that'll happen, though. So that would be my thing. Like, I think if my quarterbacks both put up 22, I beat you.
Wow.
I don't need craziness from them. I just can't afford a 14, 16, 18.
Is that still the same if Ramondre and Jacobs do what they did last week?
No, they'll do fine. They'll do fine. Jacobs will hop right back on that horse, and Ramondre is I don't know. I looking at my other predictions, I should put in Roshan Johnson.
I was gonna say.
Roshan Johnson is sitting on my bench.
Spot for Roshan Johnson.
But
we'll get into why that is a little bit later on, of course. Gotta tease that. Brett, what do you have any thoughts on this matchup?
No, not really. It's 2 powerhouse teams going head to head. Anything can happen. But I was gonna mention the whole Roshan Johnson. Might be a nice little swap to put him over the edge this week.
Jared is actively in his lineup looking to see who he's putting on the bench for that man. Anyway, next on the list, we've got Brett. This is your matchup. You're playing your little brother. The question is he your little brother in fantasy football? I think he is.
Yeah, so this one's hard because, one, I'm like a rebuilding team. Obviously made
points?
that move. Yeah, I did buy some people last week. So we'll see how that, ends up. And then obviously Corey coming off the dispersal draft is, half-baked team. I don't know.
He does have a
I
second
think it still could go either way. I still think it could go either way. And I wouldn't be that upset about it. But it'd be nice to go get a win.
How does it make you feel that right now he's starting Skylar Thompson over Will Levis?
Yeah, I do not like that. I'm a big Will Levis guy. So, I mean, it's not a terrible pick, though, because Skylar Thompson obviously
That's a
has
Monday night
Hill
game,
and
by the way.
Waddle.
That is awful.
Yeah.
Jared, you have any thoughts on this matchup before we move on?
yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. I think, like you said, kind of a half-baked team. I think that Turb will win this with the added points, which I think is what I predicted. Now that I say that,
You are
okay.
right, yes.
I was looking at the roster going when you were talking. I'm like, yeah, Turb wins this easy. Even with the 25 women now with the new one, 25 women.
Yep.
Good old. You should rename the 25 or something.
25.
Deshaun Watson in the 25. I think he'll do well. He'll get one of those BS touchdowns early, and he'll do okay. So, but yeah, I think Turb won this one.
All right. Well, moving on swiftly away from that, we've got another. This should be an interesting matchup. I do think, it's projected to be pretty close. I think JGF of the dispersal teams probably has the best point scoring roster. Now he is missing a second quarterback, but this year there haven't been that many quarterbacks to score points, so it seems like it's working out for him. He is 1-2. With all that being said, though, I think Ross is the better roster, top to bottom. Rashee Rice looks like the stupidest trade I've ever made. He didn't start for me at all. I traded the 108 in this rookie draft for Rashee Rice, and then I traded Rashi Rice for the 205. And now Rashi Rice is absolutely dominating on the football field, so that makes me sting a little bit. But I think Ross will take this game. I think he's got a better roster.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Ross wins this one. Although the projections are really close, there's a couple players that I don't know I have a lot of faith in. Anyone on the Miami Dolphins right now is sus.
Yeah.
So A-Chain there is, I don't know what to think of that. He's got Pickens, don't really know what to think of that. He's got Hopkins, don't know really what to think of that. Even, so just a couple, even Diggs, like all these players that are projected 14 and 12 could all get 7. So I think that there's just more almost guaranteed points, I feel like, on Ross's side, and I think he'll bring home the win.
Yeah. I keep looking at it deeper and deeper, and I might swap, but it's obviously 49-51 percenter. The reason I'm thinking about swapping is because Herbert.
That's true. That is true.
I feel like, yes, Ross has 2 quarterbacks slotted in, but I'm not sure how long Herbert will last. Coming off of the Steelers
Yeah, and if
taking him out, and now
and
he's got
if-
Kansas City with Jones on the line.
if he does sit, because they do have a Week 5 bye, if they do sit Herbert, Ross doesn't really have a starter on the bench.
Right.
Of
So it'd
any
be like
position.
Goff versus Mayfield would be like the QB duel.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
And then I guess AJ Brown is practicing
Don't know if he's gonna play.
or he was a non-participant.
I
So
don't
like
know if he's gonna play. They also have a Week 5 bye, so like these teams, this is where you can like cheat yourself, buy yourself 2 more weeks for these guys coming off injuries. So we'll see.
yeah. So like if AJ Brown doesn't show up,
I think
then
they'll cancel each other
obviously-
out. I expect both players to miss, so I'm not really factoring those 2 into my thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, I picked Ross, just based on having 2 quarterbacks, but I definitely think it could go either way, depending on how long Herbert stays out there or shows up.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of decided like we like JGF's roster. It's just he doesn't have the quarterback firepower to come up against the top teams yet, but he's definitely like one of those teams that will be fighting for a playoff spot down the stretch if he keeps the roster where it's at, and obviously avoids injuries.
I'm actually surprised that Dobbs didn't go to Miami. That could have been an interesting trade.
Yeah, we'll see. They still have time to trade for somebody. I don't expect them to do that because at this point it just seems like this seems like a good way to mail it in, you know. But we'll see. Moving on, we've got Devin and Hunter. This is another fun matchup. These are 2 of the more top teams in the league also, like Jared and I's matchup from earlier. I'm really looking forward to this one. Now, Devin's team was good last year. Devin's team's been good for a couple years. Hunter has been like kind of that second tier team below. Like last year it was me, Jared, and Devin at the top, and then Hunter was kind of like that 4th team that was a tier below us. So far this year though, he's jumped into that tier 1, and right now I think Hunter has the best team in our league that's producing. So I'm gonna go ahead and stay on that train, stay in that fire with Hunter taking Devin down this week.
Yeah. I like. I'll go first.
You go.
The one thing on Hunter's team that I like is the fact of Andy Dalton coming back and opening up Deontay Johnson and Hubbard. We saw all that last week. So adding 2 more massive point builders to your Kamara and Collins, Lamar Jackson.
James Cook, give him his flowers.
Yeah, James Cook. So I actually picked against Hunter, just because honestly I wanted to go against you guys in one of these matchups. But I also think that the Eagles could turn it back around at Tampa. And of course, Devin's team is always Eagles filled. That's really it. Is I just wanted to be against you guys in one of these matchups.
Wow.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of parity if you look at this. Like, these rosters are hilarious to an extent. Goddard and Bowers are actually tight end 1 and 2 on the season. I don't know if you guys knew that. So this is tight end 1 versus tight end 2.
Dallas Goddard's week this week was tight end 1 on the season.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely. But Bowers is tight end 2. Like,
yeah, Bowers has had
and that's been... but, like, look, it's been 11, 18, and 7. Nothing crazy. I think it's crazy to me that Devin's wide receiver core, the one I thought would be the best, which would be Brandon Ayuk, is obviously the worst. Like, out of this group, like, Smith, honestly, has had a better... No, just has had a better season. Jefferson has looked like people
like
were
Justin
stupid
Jefferson?
not to be... Yeah. Like, people were stupid not to think that he wasn't going to be, top
Justin
5.
Jefferson, yeah.
Yeah. So just silly stuff there. I think that Hunter will win this, and that's mostly just because of his quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson
Devins
are
aren't
always
bad
gonna...
either.
They're not bad.
I think there's a clear advantage, though.
Yeah. And then even, some other, like, having Kamara, and even Deontay Johnson looks like he could be great. Nico Collins has been top 5 wide receiver type class. And like I said, Cook is a great running back. So, yeah, I just think Hunter's team's a little bit better, in my opinion, especially with some of the questions. Like, if Ayuk can put it together and Purdy... I mean, if Purdy and Ayuk go off, he'll be fine. He'll probably win.
Yeah.
But
Devin just needs Hurts to throw to Devonta or Goddard, and Purdy to throw to Ayuk or Kittle.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, Kittle's IR now. Isn't it?
Okay, did Kittle go on IR?
Oh, no, I lied.
No. He might be back this week. I don't know if Devin's going to start him anyway. It's really like Goddard or Shakir who are you putting in there? Or Goddard or Odell even at this point. But we'll see.
That's my pick.
We're going to move straight from one of the contending matchups of the week to one of, I'll call it a tank bowl. We've got Clint versus Adam. Now, Clint just made that trade to get some points off his roster. I think it's clear where he's going. He's trying to trade Derrick Henry right now. We'll see where that goes. I'm taking Adam. I mean, until he trades Saquon Barkley, I think Adam has a decent chance of winning any matchup the way that guy's playing.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think Adam will win this one. Obviously, Clinton has kind of dismantled his roster a little bit already, looking to further do it and just kind of build for the future. So I think Clint's probably a pretty set not to win another game, unless I don't think he wants to. Like, he's fine with what his roster is. He's probably going to be looking to dump some of his older players. But yeah, I think Adam wins this.
Yeah. Brett?
Yeah, I agree. I think Adam pretty much cleans up Clint with this one. Like you guys all said, he's kind of getting rid of the points on his team, preparing for next year. He's part of the dispersal draft, so makes sense to kind of tank it down.
Yeah.
The only issue I see for Adam, and I have this guy rostered on a whole bunch of my leagues, is Richardson, and how wishy-washy and undecisive and ill-prepared he seems to play football. That's really the only hole.
Yeah.
But again, even if he puts up a 0, I think he still wins the week.
Yeah, and since nobody else mentioned it, I mean, we have to keep talking about this because it's remains a fact. Adam still has a big 4, and Richardson hasn't really been playing like that, so it may be more of a big 3 now. But he's also gotten some good production out of Mike Gesicki at tight end, and also who was it this past week? Wan'Dale Robinson had a decent game. Yeah, Adam has a solid roster. I don't think he's a contender by any means, but he could be in the JGF tier where he's like, we look up at week 13 and Adam is a game or 2 out of a playoff spot. So we'll see how that plays out for him.
He also has
go ahead.
the Minnesota defense on the 2 in his back pocket.
That's right. You gotta use him to captain. Hey, that defense is playing well. Maybe that's a strategy he's using for the rest of his team. Then we've got Kumped, who's been dumped twice, playing against Josh this week. Just kind of like that, what I said about Hunter earlier. where Hunters looked like the best team in the league. Josh has been the most consistent. He's been between 160 and 173 points the first 3 weeks of the season. I think he stays in that range, and I, quite frankly, don't see a way for Kump to get there, to touch Josh. So I think Josh takes this matchup. Even with Danny Pennies.
Josh even has Waddle and Higgins on the bench, and Walker kind of hurt, but...
Man, Josh has a bunch of receivers in that same tier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Higgins, Waddle, Shaheed, Jameson. Like, those are 4 players that are kind of like, you don't know who's going to go off on which week. So, see how that plays out for him. You guys have any thoughts there, Brett? Also, Kump has Adam Thielen. That's a big loss for his roster. Finally does something and injured.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, you know, if you got a team that you have a healthy Higgins and Waddle on the bench, you should be pretty set against most teams you go up against. And unfortunately, Kumpt really doesn't have much of a team. He was one of the dispersal draft teams, so it is what it is.
Jared?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's pretty easy win here. He's got obviously 2 inactive players on his roster, I think, right now that he could switch in for, but this roster has just not panned out. I thought it was a point-scoring roster, and it's just not. I mean, you know, he had not Derrick Henry. He had Travis Kelce. He had Adam Thielen. Jacoby Myers, I felt like would do better than he has. Chris Godwin's had, I think, a couple.
Godwin's had really good seasons so far.
Oh, he's a wide receiver 3. Honestly, if I was him, I'd be moving Godwin.
We'll see. But I assume you're also on the Josh side of this matchup.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think Josh wins this.
Yeah. So with that all being said, you know, the matchups predicted. We're going to go ahead. One player we were each surprised and disappointed in from this past week of football. You know, for me, mine kind of correlates with our bold predictions from last week. I thought C.J. Stroud was going to go off against this Minnesota defense. He didn't. He did quite the opposite. He went off the field because he threw 2 picks, which he hadn't done. I think it was 7 straight games going back to last year without a pick. He threw 2 against the Vikings. It was 7 games last year. It was 2 games this year. So it was 9 straight games without a pick for CJ. He threw 2 against the Vikings and 1 touchdown. Not a great game for CJ Stroud. So that's my bust pick of the week. Jared, you got any good or bad from last week?
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay, sorry. I thought I was muted for a second. Yeah, so my bust pick of the week was Baker Mayfield. And statistically, I mean, it wasn't like a horrible game. I was looking it up while I was sitting here because I felt like he got sacked a ton. He got sacked 7 times. Which sacks are not always a QB stat. But whenever you watch QB be sacked 7 times, it's always hard for me to feel like he had a great game. It just looks rough. He's on the ground 7 times. He has an interception. He did not have a fumble. I thought he did. I thought one of those was a sack.
That Baker stat line is almost exactly what CJ Stroud did.
Yeah.
But Stroud threw 2 picks.
Yeah. So just not a great game from Baker. He's looked pretty great all season, and that was not it for him.
Yeah, and I kind of bounce off that too. With my bust is Derek Carr this week. He's been putting up almost 40 points, fantasy points a week the first 2 weeks, and then he just comes in and drops 10. 14 for 25, 142 yards, a touchdown, and interception. I guess he brought like all the hype to all the teams that had him on their bench for like their 3rd quarterback. So a lot of people, I'm guessing, threw him in there this week, and then probably got roughed up in their league. So that was my bust of the week. Is he built up all those expectations for the first 2 weeks? Shaheed too with the big goose egg.
There's a lot of ramifications here at Derek Carr. It's just like, it's hard to trust Derek Carr. That's been his career story. It's hard to trust him over a long period of time. he did it 2 weeks in a row. Everyone's like, okay, this is it. It looks like a brand new offense. 91 points in 2 games. The Saints looked like they were tearing it up. Deep, run it with Kamara, deep balls to Shaheed, get Olave involved in the mid-game. And they went up against a secondary in the Eagles that looked really beatable the first couple weeks of the season. And the Eagles just shut them down. Like, what was going on there? But, yeah, Derek Carr, that's a very deserved bust pick. Especially given the circumstances. Now, for me, this guy is someone that I've not been super high on for this year. I was high on him last year, but with Anthony Richardson at QB, it's a little bit shaky. But Jonathan Taylor reappeared this week, kind of reminded everybody of what he is whenever they give him the ball. 23 for 110 and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he had a 25-yard catch in this game against the Bears. That's a good defense, and Jonathan Taylor had one of the best games we've seen in the last few years from him.
Yeah, I didn't watch this game. I'm not sure if that Jonathan Taylor game was a great game or if it was a weird game.
Like they couldn't trust Richardson, or what do you mean?
No, was it script? Like, did he just get all these carries because AR was that bad? Were they down a lot or up a lot? I actually don't even know who won that game, to be honest.
It was actually a pretty good game.
Yeah. It was just a good game.
Yeah.
Until the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my surprise pick, all those statistics, it's not like crazy numbers, but I mean, I would argue as a Steelers fan that our quarterback throwing for 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 1 interception is the equivalent on any other team of throwing for 404 touchdowns.
Agreed.
Like, if you look at the games we produced in quarterback, that's like MVP caliber stuff as a Steelers quarterback.
Wait, what did you just
not
say?
Not that I think he's MVP caliber.
I don't know. I think I just heard Jared throwing Justin Fields' name out there to the MVP world.
That would be ridiculous. He's not making MVP. But I think to have those numbers in this offense, and yeah, one of them was a 50-yard bomb to Austin there.
That was a slant. That was a good slant. Good throw, good route, touchdown.
But yeah, no, it was a good game for sure, and he used his legs in the red zone to make great decisions. He did have his first interception. It's an interception,
it was a bad throw, bad decision, but the interception was rough outcome.
Yeah, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 of him, 10 being his fault and 1 not being his fault, it's like a 2. Like, it other than maybe squeezing it into a tight spot, that was not his fault on that.
Yeah, it looked like Deshaun Watson forcing a ball where it shouldn't be. But anyway, Brett, who you got surprising you this week?
So to, I guess, piggyback on the whole new quarterback in Carolina, I chose Deontay Johnson. He while he was a Steeler, he was very hated by the way he plays, as far as like when he catches it in yak yards. But now with Andy Dalton stepping in, you really got to see his full potential. Targeted 14 times, had 8 catches, 122 yards and a touchdown. Even by doing all that, Adam Thielen had a day. Chuba Hubbard had a day. So really, although I put Deontay Johnson as the surprise pick, it was more Andy Dalton stepping in and showing the Carolina fans that their $5 tickets were worth it that game.
$5?
Yes,
that must have been like field
box
level.
seat.
$5 tickets are field level in Carolina.
$5 box seats for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go back and make a joke about something you said there. You were talking about yak yards for Deontay Johnson. Actually, while he was in Pittsburgh, I think they called them lack yards. Loss after catch.
Nice. Yeah.
So anyway.
That's good.
Now,
lack yards.
Now that we're done talking about the surprises and the busts from last week, we're going to go ahead and look at what we predicted last week as our bold, spicy predictions. Now, I'm going to go first here. Obviously, we've already kind of touched on this. C.J. Stroud kind of stunk. The Texans' offense didn't look good. The Vikings' defense is legit. And, maybe I'll have something come through for me this week. But, Brett, what's going on with your prediction there?
Yeah, so I chose obviously one of the Browns receivers, Judy, for 150, 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, Amari Cooper, the guy who has hands for stones, gave those hands for stones to Judy. And Amari Cooper actually went 7 for 86 and 2 touchdowns. So
Quite the game.
I just picked the wrong receiver.
I was right. I told you so. That's all I want to say. I just
Okay.
want to hear you say Dale was right. I should have picked Amari Cooper.
I would say the only issue with that is Amari Cooper had most
2
of
touchdowns, and we're moving on.
Yeah, you
Go
know
ahead.
exactly what I'm about to get into. One
No, I
play
know.
is half of his production for that game, basically.
That's fine. That's half of the Browns' offensive production in the whole day. So
That's literally George Pickens, though, too.
Sure.
40-yard bomb down the field. That's it. That's it. We're wrapping it up.
yeah,
No more of that.
Definitely interesting. But now I think we can finally say, for the first time in 3 weeks.
Yep.
Now it wasn't exact. It didn't
Nope.
get to the stat line, but
Nope.
based on having the ridiculous prediction and what actually happened, I think we have our first hit of the year. Jared, I'll let you have your moment here.
Yeah, I honestly, this kind of surprised me. I was not able to watch this whole game.
This kind of surprised me.
It really did. I mean, I had a whole reasoning behind it. Like we talked about it on the show. Of like, I looked at statistics of what he's averaged and over week threes all time. And then last year, week 3, he had 1 spot start and had a crazy week. And I'm just like, it's gonna happen again. And I predicted 350 plus and 3 touchdowns, which seemed aggressive. But he gave me 319 and 3. So I think that's close enough.
And
319 and 3.
I want to just throw this out there and add this to this argument because the 319, like if the Raiders could have kept up with the Panthers offense, he would have probably had 400.
Yeah.
But the game was a blowout. The Panthers were up by a lot. Their defense was absolutely dominating, and Gardner Minshew looked like Gardner Minshew. And
yeah.
I just want to give Jared his flowers on this because he's been hosting Thursday Night Football at his house, and so we were talking about this at Thursday Night Football about Andy Dalton, and Jared was getting like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about? Are you dumb?" kind of comments coming towards him. That was also about something else, but we're not going to talk about that thing. So,
yeah.
Jared has the first hit of the year for the Boomer Bust predictions.
For sure.
So congratulations. And now we're gonna look to you, Jared. You've had the wisdom this year. You're up a lot of money in betting. You just hit on Andy Dalton. Who's your surprise? Who's your big bold player this week?
My bold player this week is a little bit out of pocket. If you've watched this team, you know how bad.
I don't even know who he plays for.
Oh, Roshan Johnson is the backup, maybe second string, third string. I don't even know where he's on the depth chart for the Chicago Bears. The actual starting running back for this team might be the worst running back in football. If you've watched this man play football,
he's fast. That's about it.
He's been so bad. He's swift,
but he's bad.
I think that the coaching staff is going to feed Roshan Johnson, and he's going to go for 115 against the Rams and 1 touchdown. Now, that's 115 rushing and receiving yards. Total yards. Because I think he's going to have to get involved in the receiving game. He's always, or not always, but last week he was really involved in the receiving game.
Yeah, 4 for 5.
Yeah, 4 for 5 and 32. So I just think that he's going to go off. I think Swift should be put into a retirement home or something. I don't know. Unless he has wide open holes, I don't see a chance of Swift making any moves.
Yeah, that's kind of what Swift has been, and it worked in Philadelphia because, well, he was running through bus lanes in Philadelphia. But anyway, speaking of running backs going off, I'm going Najee Harris to have 200 yards and a touchdown. 200 total yards, probably like 150 on the ground, but he'll probably catch a screen for a good many yards. part of this is because the Colts have one of the worst rush defenses in all of football so far to start the year. Now, it looked amazing against the Bears, but the Bears' rushing attack has just been pitiful this year, so I'm not taking that game really into account. Now, also in that, Jalen Warren is expected to miss this week with an injury, which I think will get Cordero Patterson on the field more, but I think more importantly, it'll just get Najee Harris more of the carries in this game, and I don't know if Justin Fields will need to throw out much in this game against the Colts, but we'll see how it plays out. So Najee Harris is my bold take this week.
Yeah, and I just for what it's worth, and you may or may not know this, he's never done that. He's never rushed for 200 yards before. He actually, in his rookie season, in Week 17, he rushed for 188 against the Cleveland Browns. And that was the closest he's ever gotten to it. So, it would definitely be an achievement. I mean, anytime that a running back is rushing for 200, they're having a great game. I mean, that's... in general, if you get over the 100 mark into the 120, 140, that's a great game. 200 is not unheard of. Hasn't happened this year though. So, but we
usually comes off like a long pop.
Yeah,
one of the runs.
So looking, since you were talking about his rookie year, he had 180. I went back and looked just for fun. Right now, the last 2 years he's played against the Colts, he's rushed for a grand total of 68 yards in 2 games. So that makes me feel great. But, maybe he's just going to buck the trend.
Yep.
A different Colts defense.
Different. It is. The Colts defense
used to have a mean defense. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like they have that anymore.
Speaking of mean, we're going to go straight to Brett. I don't know why Brett's mean, but he's got a mean, bold prediction this week.
Oh, yeah. So mine's actually like a dual quarterback bold prediction.
Brett says, I'm going to keep my eyes on this game.
Yeah, big game. So I have a lot of Kyler and Daniels in my leagues. But after watching what Arizona did in week 2 and what Daniels did in week 3, I think that this game could be a complete sling fest when it comes to yards through the air. So I'm predicting both Kyler and Daniels to each have 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns.
We need that type of football. We do.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome to see. Washington doesn't have the best defense. They gave a lot of points to Bengals.
This is a dream fantasy matchup on paper. Both teams have really good offenses, and their defenses leave a lot to be desired.
Right, which makes it's a bold prediction, but I think it could be one that actually works. But we'll see. It
definitely makes it fun to watch this game, but it's also just setting up for the biggest disappointment. This is what always happens when you have these games. I don't know this for sure. I'm just guessing. This is probably the highest over-under game of the week because of those factors. I mean, the Washington offense hasn't turned the ball over or punted for 2 straight games. And if that continues this week, this could be one of those Rams-Chiefs games from a few years ago where they score like 98 points. And I really hope it is because, like Jared said, we really do need that this year in fantasy, especially in the passing game.
Yes, we do.
But I can also see this game ending up 15-12. What?
3 picks on each quarterback, yeah.
9 field goals, 15-12. That's what this kind of game could end up being too.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be fun to watch, and hopefully somebody hits one of these bold predictions this week because boy was it fun watching Andy Dalton make Jared look like an absolute mega mind.
It was kind of crazy. Rightful returns.
We got to finish this week, just kind of how Jared and I finished last week. We were talking about the AFC North Division. It wasn't the Ravens. It was the Bengals. Yep. And is there seasonal life support after week 3?
It really is. I mean, there's no other... Like, statistically, their chances are not great. They play the Panthers, who a week ago looked like a scrub.
Pause right there.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton, revenge game.
Really?
To put the Bengals at 0-4 would feed generations, and there's nothing in the football season that could make me happier than seeing it. If Andy Dalton goes for 303 again and they beat the Bengals to put them at 0-4, I would be so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy. And then
Yeah.
and I don't know that you guys know this. 0-4 as a record has only one time turned into a playoff berth since 1970, since the merger. So, not that it's impossible, but if you drop another game before you win another one, it's pretty much over.
And then they've got the Ravens after that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if they lose to Carolina this week, I don't see them winning till maybe week 6. So they go 0-5 to start.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Someone should be fired at 0-5 with that roster.
I mean,
now, yeah, they had some issues coming out the gate with Jamar Chase not practicing, and then Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins, I get those people mixed up.
Yeah.
T. Higgins was injured. But the truth of the matter is, as a coach, it's not your responsibility necessarily to get your players to sign contracts and show up to practice. But at the same time, allowing that crap to fester is ruining your season.
Yeah.
So that's obviously injury is not his fault, but the Jamar Chase situation, it shouldn't be week 3 before he has a decent game.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Bengals, we talked about the Ravens might be dead if they lost to the Cowboys. They had a huge lead in the fourth quarter.
28-9, I believe.
The Cowboys made this close in the fourth quarter. They had a large lead, and it looked like the Cowboys were going to pull it off. They came all the way back, fell a little bit short. 1-2 now. 1-2 for the Ravens now. But this week they play the Bills. If they go to 1-3, you're still in a terrible position for the rest of the year. And
they got some easy games coming up after that, though.
The Bengals.
Get 3 or 4,
they
5,
The
6.
Ravens should beat the Bengals, yes. But, I mean, the Commanders, they're a decent team. We don't know what the Commanders are right now. They have a rookie quarterback, and they're doing some unprecedented things that we haven't seen. The Buccaneers are The Browns always seem like they play the Ravens and the Bengals tough. I'm not so sure about the Steelers, but we'll see how that plays out. But by week 6, we could be looking at a 2-team race in the AFC North. And,
assuming the
is
Browns can win something.
assuming that the second team gets going. Now, I think this week seems like a get-right game for the Browns. I mean, the Giants game was an absolute – that's just awful. We should have beat the Giants. It shouldn't have been close. It was at home. We gave up 7 sacks on Watson, which isn't all on Watson. I know Jerry was saying about Baker Mayfield earlier, but the O-line didn't play good. But also the Giants sent a lot more pressure than they have in the past. And honestly, it just looked like the coaching staff had zero adjustments for that. And zero, there was, nothing going on for the Browns. So, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Kevin Stefanski is starting to be rumored as one of those coaches on the hot seat. And I think that's awful. I don't love Stefanski as a coach, but I don't think he's, needing to be fired.
It could get a lot worse.
This is not a terrible roster. But it's not a great roster either. This is a very middle-of-the-road team that's going to be, around 500. You're going to be fighting for the playoffs, and hopefully you become, Joe Flacco's magic can carry you. But, I don't know. We'll see what happens this week against the Raiders. But, we can't talk about the AFC North at this point without talking about the big, bad Steelers.
Yep. They just need to keep winning games. If they can win 3 of the next, 4, they make the playoffs. In my opinion.
Now,
that's not crazy.
Two of the next 5 are against the Raiders and the Giants. I feel really good about those. They play the Colts this week. I feel really good about that.
Yeah. Cowboys, I don't know what to think.
You start the season 6-2. Yeah,
the back half of the year is the scary part for the Steelers.
But
so
if
they need before the bye, they need to only maybe drop 1 or 2 games.
For sure.
It's a rough back half.
See, there is
potentially.
It doesn't look as scary as it did when I looked at it at the beginning of the season.
That's true. The Bengals are bad. The Browns don't look like they know how to play offense. They have the Steelers problem.
It's a lot of divisional games. Divisional games are always scary, though.
Yeah.
It's literally 4 back-to-back.
Yep. That's
insane. The scheduling for that is ridiculous.
Hey. It could work out for you guys, though. You get off to a really hot start. If you're 8-2 through the first 10 weeks, you don't care about your schedule. You're pretty much in the playoffs. You just gotta find one more win, 2 more wins, and you're there.
I'm just worried about injuries coming from
Mm,
all 4 of the
that's true.
defenses in the AFC North have always been like the meanest and hardest hitting. To do that 4 weeks in a row, oh my god.
Well, the Bengals defense looked like a squeaky toy against the Commanders, so we'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. But yeah, I do see your point. It's one of those big bad divisions. Now, we're gonna talk about the AFC North a lot, but if you guys want to see us talk about a different division, we can definitely do that too. But you have to actually watch in order to suggest things like that. So we'll see you guys next week. Let us know if you have any other suggestions or anything else, any topics you think we missed or want us to talk about in the future. And we may have a special guest in the near future. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye. Peace out.
You were right, by the way.
I was waiting for that to die before you guys responded.
You're right about the over-under on the Commanders-Arizona game. They're at 50.5 is their over-under.
Holy, that's going to be a high
juicy.
score.
Yeah.